Inoi atu ki te kaihanga. Nā te timatanga nāna hu ki te whakootinga. Haere tonu ngā mihi aroha ki ngā kirimati o te whānau wiri hana rei. Tiwi o Ngāti Huia ki Katihiku. O koutou mā, e raru i ngā kapua pōuri. Haere tonu ngā mihi aroha ki a rāti. Me ki piki te ora, ki piki te kaha, ki piki te māramatanga. Koutou ngā kanohi ora, te hunga tiaki o te iwi tokotoru, o Ngāti Tōranga tira te tiawa ki whakarongotai, ngā hapu o taki o tira ārau ko te ki te tonga, tēnei taku mihi nunui kia ko te. Tēnā koe, rā koe te ora, pai ana ki te a koe hā ko te pēhitanga o tō māwiwitanga, pai ana ki te tūtaki a koe, nau nei e whakatata ana kei a mātou nei mahi nunui, roto i te takiwā nei o te kaunihera, nei reira tēnei taku mihi nunui kia koe e koro. A koutou mā ngā kaunihera, e kite anau ki a koe, Councillor Halliday, pai ana kiti a koe, e whakamārama ana tō mamaitanga, i te wā e pāhuri ake, nei reira kia kaha koe. Koutou mā, e te whakaminenga, huitahi nei, tēnei ata, tēnā koutou, tēnā hui mai tātou katoa. E te atua tō mātou kaihanga, ka ti aho te Maramataka me te ori au kupu kōrero, ti matau mahi kia mau te tika me te aroha. Me te ake utonu ki a mātou tau aroha i roto i tēnei huhuinga. Whakaki a mātou whakaaro mātou mahi katoa te wairua tapu. Amen. Welcome everybody and apologies for the late start. I acknowledge Councillor Halliday. I hope that you're resting and convalescing well. I'm hearing that hasn't stopped the keyboard from tapping away. Also acknowledge that Councillor Wainuiwhenua was also with us, and I advise that Chris Pavan will also join us online, and Kim Tahiwi is expected to join us online as well. So I acknowledge you and I welcome you. Can I record Mayor Janet is unwell and may not join us, may or may not join us online as well. So just extend our respect to her. I also need to record the apologies of Wainuiwhenua. He contacted me late last night to say he's unwell. I've contacted him again this morning just to find out how he is. I think it's unlikely that he will join us this morning. Tēnā koe, Mayor Janet, who's just joined us. We've just acknowledged you, and we extend our best wishes to you for a speedy recovery. And I also just acknowledge, Chris, you've joined us as well. We've acknowledged your presence as well today online. So to elected members that are here, to our staff, I extend my greetings to you all.
Could we move and second Huriwai's apologies so they're properly noted?
Yep, so we'll move and second the apologies from Wainuiwhenua, and I'll ask if there are any other apologies that need to be noted. Do I have a seconder, please? Kristen. Put that apology forward. All in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Kia ora mai tātou. Thank you. Public speaking time? Do we?
You haven't been notified of
We've been have no notification of anyone wishing to approach us in speaking time. Item 4. Any additional agenda items that need to be noted? I'm not aware of anything that have been notified to me. Item 5.1, confirmation of the minutes of the previous hui of the 9th of May. We confirm those minutes?
Are you moving? Someone second?
Yeah, I'll move that we confirm those minutes. So have a seconder, please. Denise, tēnā koe. Are there any matters arising from the minutes that are not going to be captured in today's agenda? Under item 3.1, I just wonder whether there is an update regarding the Art Rongoa Collective take at Haruatai. Is there any update on that take?
I believe that that matter is progressing, and based on conversations with my colleague, Mr. Mendonça, I think there'll probably be a more involved or some more progress to update you on next time. But certainly, I'm confident that the team are progressing off the back of the kōrero at the last Whakaminenga meeting.
Perhaps it might be helpful, given that our art forum will convene at this stage Friday morning. It would be helpful, I think, if we could generate an update and add that to our ngā take tarewa in time for Friday morning's hui of the 3 iwi. Yep.
Certainly.
I note that there's an update in today's agenda regarding Wainuiwhenua. Any other matters arising from those minutes? If not, we will adopt the minutes.
Can you put it to the vote? Just so everyone can say aye.
Do I have a seconder, please? Denise? Aye. All in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Item 6.1, Kāpiti Housing Steering Group, Terms of Reference. Just acknowledge Jennifer Allen and Chris Pervin, who have provided this paper to Te Whakaminenga. I welcome you to join us. I also want to acknowledge Darren Grant for joining us to go through this paper. Kia ora, Darren.
Chris, would you like to open the discussion?
Thanks, Darren. I just check. Can you hear me? Thank you. Kia ora. Today we are presenting a paper on the Kāpiti Housing Steering Group Terms of Reference. I just wanted to give a little context to this paper to note that bringing this paper to the committee today is the culmination of around 18 months of work. The critical sort of genesis of the terms of reference is that it's an iwi-led process to focus joint activity on Māori housing in the Kāpiti district. The work started off on the basis of central local government, including the Greater Wellington region, coming together to support moving forward in a more coordinated way with you, our iwi partners, around Māori housing and Māori housing needs in the Kāpiti district. Whilst we are tabling the paper, it has been developed through a series of place-based steering group meetings with an initial group from Kāinga Ora, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Te Puni Kokiri, KCDC, and our three iwi partners. So I just wanted to give that context and to acknowledge that it's implementing an action in the housing strategy, which is Action H, which was to establish a means to support our iwi partners to progress Māori housing development and activity in the Kāpiti district. So I just wanted to open with that and then hand over to Darren.
Good, thank you, Chris. Just further to what Chris has just said, I think in terms of reference, this group was established informally at the start, was bringing together different agencies. We quickly realised it was important that there was a clear terms of reference so that everyone understood the purpose of the group, actually what the decision-making abilities were, the activities of the group were, and how best to operate. In terms of the background, as Chris said, it was about how do we best support iwi in terms of housing aspirations. The feedback that we received during the housing needs assessment was that dealing with government at all levels was difficult, that it wasn't well coordinated, and that it was hard to get, I suppose, a clear approach of how to best to work with government as a whole. And so the key part of this group is how best to make it so that there's a joined up approach with all levels of government, so that when opportunities do arise, and there is a lot of opportunities for projects in terms of local housing for Māori, Papakainga, all sorts of different opportunities, how best do we work together to support those projects to be successful?
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Darren. We recognise the significant period of time that has elapsed to get us to this point, and noting that the steering group prior to today's meeting have given their approval to the terms of reference. Can I open this up for our mana whenua representatives, please, to provide further comment, and we'll just note the absence of Ngāti Toa at this morning's meeting.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou, tēnā koe, Darren. Just want to thank the team, and I think we've done this before, but want to thank again the team from the council here who have been responsive, I guess, Mr. Chair, Andre, responsive to the art needs and certainly also to ngā hapū, to our housing needs. And I think just going back to what Darren was talking about in terms of the survey that was facilitated mid last year sometime. And the need we saw to ensure that our people had opportunity, Andre, to hear to convey their concerns and their stories. So what Darren has just shared today were a number of those stories that came through in the community surveys and other surveys we did leading up to that, and probably up until today, reasonably grateful and satisfied with the progress that has been made, certainly with the terms of reference and certainly with the Wainuiwhenua Project. To date, there's been some really encouraging discussions and initial plans prepared and shared with art to date. So we're really keen on that, really comfortable with that. Really pleased and happy to hear that KCDC are also willing to take on board our desire and our I guess our push for construction and development in Ōtaki that is friendly and does no harm to our environment and our waterways, and that's something really important to us up there as we build in the adjacent areas of any of our waterways in Ōtaki, And the particular site in Rangiuru is directly adjacent to Te Kura o Whakatupuranga Ruamano and the Wainuiwhenua stream, which the Kura and others have undertaken substantial work on over the last 4 to 5 years to clear it of all pollution to the point where now our stream is running clear and provides good watercress and the water life is thriving in there too. So it's important that any development along that particular stream is cognizant of that and mindful of how they dispose and how we dispose of stormwater and wastewater. And so the encouragement to pursue and follow Te Wānanga Raukawa's example, I guess, is to the living building process and engineering design is something that they've taken on board for the Rangiuru plan and design. So, yeah, very grateful for that and pleased to see the progress to date. Andre?
Kim, do you have any advice or comment at this point? And then I'll invite...
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kōrero mai.
Kia ora. I'm just trying to navigate my screen here, but I'll leave it off. Oh, there we go. Kia ora, yeah, just, yes, we've come a long way, just to say that. And just to go back a bit further, and then Chris's context. So this discussion started when our iwi partners received a call from the Crown agencies to come to a hui rehousing. And in that first hui, I think there was myself. I actually can't remember who was there. It was meant to be John Barrett, but someone else turned up from Te Aotearoa. And basically we sat in the room and all the Crown agencies were there and they all spent 20 minutes telling us who they are. And at the end of the hui, iwi partners had a chance to speak. And the main message was that we've been here before. If this committee or this strategy is going to be the same as it was before, where we all sit in a room and nothing happens, then we wouldn't be interested. So we made it very clear that this needs to be an actionable committee. We made it very clear in previous hui that previous strategies from Crown agencies have not worked and do not work and continue to leave us behind in the housing market. So it's come a long way, and the people that are in the room, I have seen the attitudes change. And for us, this is a really actionable group where we say this is what we need to make housing work for our whānau. This is what we're proposing. You come to the table with your pūtea, your resources, and you need to figure out how you fit into our strategy and how you can support our strategy. And if you need to think outside the box, then you need to think outside the box. So it's really a different way of working. It's not us coming along saying, we have a project down Key Street, just choosing a name. How can we fit into your system? No, we're trying to flip that on the head and say, this is what we need. So how does your system support this? And if you have to do something different, then you have to do something different. And we have to think about different ways of accessing funding. Then we may have to make new funding streams. Then that's what we're going to do. So it's a really different way of working together, and long may it continue. And the proof will be in the pudding at the end of the day. But it's a good step forward. So yeah, thanks to the team. That's about all I have to add. Kia ora.
I invite comment or advice through our elected members that are here with us today.
Good, everyone. Thank you for your kind words at the beginning, Andre. Much appreciated. You hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Look, to be honest, the last Denise and Kim's words really have just sort of tidied this all up for me with regards to my thinking. I will freely admit, when I got this report, it was a little bit of a, not necessarily a surprise, it just came a little bit out of left field, as I wasn't aware of the depth, if you like, of what's been going on behind the scenes. I did quite, there's been quite a lot of quick pushback from, as you said, my fingers have been quite busy over the last couple of days, as Chris will attest to. And I've been given some good understandings of how this, and Janet as well, and good understandings of what this kaupapa is about. Kim, thank you for your finish off there, because actually one quick question I do have to Darren and Chris, in regards to the, say for argument's sake, the infrastructure funding, was this committee in some way helpful for empowering that? Or was that sort of a completely different work stream as such?
Look, in terms of, it definitely helps in terms of, you know, the ability to have a joined up approach. Definitely helps in terms of discussions with government.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's that joined up approach that I'm really really happy to hear about. I do recall both Denise's and Kim's word previously about thanking staff over the last 12 months about a different approach and a different way of thinking. And I was under the impression it was just in general, but in general working, which I think it is, but I'm also thinking now that it's also specifically very much in relation to this the steering group and this way of moving forward. I do have a little bit of concern now through in regards to that. I find the name and some of the purpose quite broad, where I think this is really a Māori-centric or Māori-focused piece of work, if you like. But I do appreciate that not all the, there are different parties that work here, if you like, and KCDC is not necessarily leading all of them. And this is, as Chris has pointed out to me, this is that relationship with other departments, with our iwi partners and KCDC with regards to delivering for aspirations of Māori in regards to housing. I'm very comforted to hear those comments from both Denise and Kim with regards to the approach. I guess, and also Chris has said that this is going to be also coming for some, on the other side of the equation, on the council side of things, we'll be talking to this in a separate matter of how we can support that as well. So I think it's fantastic. Darren, as you've pointed out, that this is creating that joined up approach, which is what we have been looking for, and I think has been missing in this equation. And the fact that that Kim, you and Denise are sitting at that seat with that attitude and mentality of they are fitting into us, not us fitting into them, and that being accepted, and we at KCDC supporting that kaupapa too, I think is critical with regards to things, because things need to be done differently. You're dead right, Kim. We can't be just doing the same old with regards to things. But I think we're in a really good space to advance that kaupapa at the moment. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything to slow down the work that this group is doing with regards to that. So I have sent through a little bit of recommendation with regards to a slight tweak to the purpose that's in there, but we could perhaps put that forward as a recommendation, maybe. What I do not want to do is potentially see this process slowed down as such. I think that this potentially can all be worked through with regards to things. So I guess that's my bit. I do have concerns and issues around Kāinga Ora and Ministry of Housing and Development coming into Kāpiti, but that's a different conversation from this conversation, which I'll take to Strategy and Ops and other and more than likely my committee as well, with regards to just seeing what's going on with regards to what type and styles of general housing is coming to Kāpiti in that format. But this particular kaupapa, I'm very supportive of as we move forward, as it's addressing the aspirations of Māori housing in a positive way from what I'm hearing. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Darren will provide a reply. Thank you, Councillor Halliday.
I was just going to make a reply in terms of the name. So obviously the name is quite general at the moment, and I think it's just a holding name. there is the process we're going through in terms of a formal name for the group, and that won't be the name going forward.
So that refers to item 12 in the report, which has given an indication to us that Ngā Hapu o Taki has offered to provide a suggestion for a suitable reo name for the steering group. So just noting that in the report. Any other comments or advice?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Kōrero mai.
Yeah, just very briefly, I agree with Martin. There might be tweaks that are needed going forward, but I'm really keen to see this work progress. So I'd recommend that the committee endorses this today. We can always work on it a little bit further and seek some other views, but I think it's really important, as Kim said, just to create and maintain momentum, because certainly some huge challenges and increasing day by day out there. So really keen to see this progress today.
Perhaps I'll provide a comment. First of all, in terms of Tatiawa's position here, acknowledge the work that's been done at this point. I recall attending the very first meeting, and I recall the comments made by Helmut Modlik from Ngāti Toa, which was reflective of my own views about the expectation that this would create for mana whenua working with our treaty partners. And I think what's being expressed today regarding the familiarity of having conversations with the Crown, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it progresses beyond that. The actions often don't follow the rhetoric, and that is always a matter that I think mana whenua find, I guess, uncomfortable and unreliable in terms of creating that partnership. I note under 16.1 that there is also a suggestion that the chair of the group would be appointed from the Art Confederation, and 16.2 suggests or proposes that there would be 6 monthly updates to Te Whakaminenga. My response to both is that I think it would be certainly mana enhancing for the chair to be nominated from the 3 iwi. I would like to think that the scheduled meetings of the Whakaminenga o Kāpiti would continue to receive updates regarding this particular kaupapa, and I don't know that 6 monthly reporting through this committee would meet my expectations. I want to bring to the attention of Te Whakaminenga that Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai has formally withdrawn from Wellington Regional Leadership Committee. This was notified to our Confederation and to this Council. And in relation to that, I see that the terms of reference identify Wellington Regional Leadership Committee as one of the parties. And I also note that the terms of reference identifies the steering group should report back to Wellington Regional Leadership Committee. That would not be the process that Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai would follow. Having formally withdrawn at an operational and governance level, we are still waiting for a response from the leadership of that committee, understanding that there is an obligation for the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee, albeit a regional authority, to continue having a direct partnership and relationship in place with Tatiawa as mana whenua. It is, I want to register concern of Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai that that's what the terms of reference reflect. It's not what we would agree to in order to participate as a party to this important initiative. Also note that there's a suggestion here that the Secretariat under 28.3 is proposed, that Council has provided the support consistently with the position that Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai has taken in regards to our partnership and relationship with this local authority. I acknowledge the fact that Secretariat would be extremely helpful, would be extremely mana enhancing for the 3 iwi to have that resource allocated to this kaupapa. Finally, there's no time frame given here, and I just wonder whether the intention to approve the terms of reference today, given the comments that have been made, also needs to be time sensitive in terms of funding that is proposed to support this important initiative. And on the basis of those comments that I've been asked to provide to the hui, and in the absence of having Ngāti Toa at this hui, the position that Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai would take is option B, to defer the approval of the terms of reference, seeking further clarification on the matters that I've raised. And I invite further advice and comment.
Tēnā tātou. Kia ora, Andre. No, te arawhatu ki te atua I whakatū I tēnā iata. Nā anō te mihi. Tēnā koe. Tēnā hoki tātou. Thanks for your... Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thanks. Still getting used to these mics. Hopefully I can add some more context and background, be helpful to the discussion. Yeah, it has been going on for quite some time, this group. And these terms of reference have been going round and round and round. And we've taken a while to give some feedback about them. For us, I think they're not the perfect set of terms of reference, but I think they're ngā hapu ōtaki, we felt that they were good enough to get us going, because it's taken such a long time just to get us to this point. In general, we think they're okay. There's some wording we thought could be better. It's probably useful to let you know, Andre, that yeah, they have been circulated with the 3 iwi, though I know that you didn't have someone actively involved in looking at them for a while. We took the approach to agree with Art appointing the chair. To date, we've been really happy with with our friends from KCDC being willing to chair the meeting so that we could be actively participating in the meeting. We took that, the group really encouraged one of Art to chair the meeting, and we said, just for now, we're really happy for you to do that. Because you do have to take a bit of a different hat when you're chairing the meeting. If you're not chairing the meeting, we've found we could be much more focused on the actual discussion. And we think for some of the hui we kind of needed to do that, so it could be focused on what we want the group to be focused about, rather than sometimes some of the parties to the group are thinking more about their priorities. Although they've been pretty good, I must say. There was another thing you asked about. Oh, the Secretariat. Yeah, we were happy for KCDC. I think we asked for KCDC to actually fulfill that role to start with, just until we have someone set up who can do that for us. So the interim arrangement we were okay with. And I guess we took the view that these terms of reference, we would be able to review them and update them as we went along. And yeah, we are quite keen to move with things. I don't know if maybe Darren, you could tell us if taking option B, as is suggested today, how that might. I guess it wouldn't slow things down too much. I mean, we can continue to meet like we have been. I don't know what it means in terms of the funding that we've meant to be signing off on and distributing. And Andre, yeah, thanks for sharing with us about the Wellington Regional Leaders Group. I really don't know where that puts us. If you've withdrawn from that group, but we have this other committee over here, and they're a party to this, we're all a party to that group. How does that leave us in terms of working together on this committee? Do you have some thoughts on that?
Most definitely. First and foremost, we're not at all bound by any structure that's not comfortable, that isn't supported by us operationally, has never worked for us at a governance level. And so I can provide a better response once Wellington Regional Leadership Committee has shown the courtesy of formally replying to Tatiawa after providing a comprehensive explanation and rationale for us not being able to continue our working relationship through that committee. Once we have had a response, once we have had an opportunity to consider how we navigate that, then that will definitely be notified to our Art Confederation partners and this local authority. Darren, I do think it would be helpful if you or Jennifer are able to answer some of those issues that have been raised. And it was conscious, we were conscious that this delaying it may have implications in terms of funding. So I'd be comfortable to take further advice given those issues that have been raised.
Look, in terms of the group generally, I don't see the delay impacting the work that we're doing. So we would continue to move forward on the work that we're doing. Obviously, we've got the draft terms of reference as a guide, so we can continue on in that process. In terms of the link, so there is a link in terms of the Better Off funding proposal, and one of the proposed conditions was that the terms of reference would be signed off, just to bring all these things together in a joined up way. We were looking to do that in this financial year. However, we could have discussions about that being carried over to the next financial year if that was the outcome or the preferred approach of this group.
Mayor Janet and Councillor Halliday and Chris, I've notified that you would like to provide further comment.
The dog's doing a little something. Yeah, I'd like a little bit more information about the Better Off funding having to be carried over, Darren. I think that's actually quite a unfortunate. It'd be unfortunate if that had to happen because we were deferring the terms of reference today. I'm wondering, how much change we can make just today to alleviate some of the things that have happened. And to that end, I was kind of wanting to know how fundamental is the involvement of the Wellington Regional Leadership Group in this whole kaupapa. If that was taken out of the terms of reference, would it have a significant impact? I'm wondering if the report back, if every 6 months to Te Whakaminenga, if that's not enough, there could be something added, or as required by the group, something like that, just to allow options for more reporting back. And the secretariat, I wouldn't think that would be, we could leave that a little bit looser as well, and just, maybe just try and do a couple of simple things today so that it can kind of go through, and then bear in mind too that they could be reviewed, and we could even commit to reviewing them today, maybe after a period of 3 months or something like that, just so that we can be ensured that we're not holding up this work today. To me, the Wellington Regional Leadership Group is probably the question that I would want answered around that. But I would be keen to see a kind of modified option A, so that we're able to move forward. There's no implications for the Better Off funding. We can respect the amount of work that's gone in already, so that there's not this feeling, oh, it's going around and around again. And then just in some way commit to reviewing them and to addressing some of the concerns that have been raised today.
Thank you, Janet. Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are my own personal thoughts. I just wanted to share with you just a little something. Over the last 3 days, I'll freely admit, when I first saw this report, I pretty much came out swinging pretty damn hard to KCDC with regards to what the heck is going on here. Why isn't governance involved? How come we don't have oversight? Why is it just turning up now? And all sorts of other bits and pieces. And I've gone through, I should say, a bit of a learning paradigm shift over the last couple of days, which sort of came to a bit of a head last night. And why I say that is because my take on this is that this is a central government construct, okay? And this is a central government way for it to be working with local Māori, local iwi, with regards to the delivery of housing in Kāpiti. Quite frankly, it's got nothing much to do with the Greater Wellington Leadership Group. They just happen to be members of this committee. And I stand to be corrected, but that's my take on it. I'd ask for Chris when she's having a chat to maybe confirm that. And why I say that, Andre, is that I appreciate that you in a very similar situation with the Greater Wellington Leadership Group as you were with KCDC not that long ago. So I appreciate where you're coming from. And there needs to be a sorting out of that particular relationship, the Wellington Regional Leadership Group one. And I think you'll see Mayor Holborough be getting onto that as part of, because I didn't pick that up in this report at all, that situation was there. But I think Ngā Hapu is a good example of the potential that sits there with this particular group, and also the potential that sits there for Atiawa ki Whakarongotai with regards to building the relationships with these particular groups, Wellington Leadership Group aside, just put that aside for the moment, but with these other groups for good outcomes for Māori and iwi mana whenua on the Kāpiti coast, especially in our rohi. And I think that is potentially quite an important factor here. Potentially even Andre sitting at that table and eyeballing the Wellington Regional Leadership Group across the table and asking them why they haven't responded directly could be another mechanism with regards to asking why they aren't engaging in a mana enhancing way with your iwi. So that's maybe a different thing. That I've had to change my thinking a little bit in my approach to how this particular committee fits in with regards to our approach to housing, and also fits in the larger picture of housing delivery on the Kāpiti coast, which fundamentally is a central government responsibility. We are going to be getting more involved in that, but that's due to the issues that we've had in this space. And again, I come back to both Kim and Denise's korero earlier, which was talking that, yes, and Darren's, how it's all been all messy and all over the place. It's all tightened in, and the hapu's been getting some very good results in this. I appreciate what Kim was just saying. I think it was Kim, with regards to the terms of reference can perhaps be tightened up as they go forward. But things are happening. Results are happening. And I would be think it could be a bit remiss to miss this opportunity to make sure that this particular committee, which is not answerable to the Wellington Regional Leadership Group as such, where they're just a member, is not sacrificed potentially because of that particular relationship of a member of the group rather than the group itself. So that's my perspective on this. Thank you for listening.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor Halliday. Any other comments or responses?
Oh, kia ora Chris. Has Chris spoken?
Kia ora, Chris.
Kia ora, thank you. I guess I just wanted to lean in a bit to some of the questions that Mayor Janet and Martin and Darren had put on the table. Just to note that Better Off funding provides art for the Kāpiti place-based steering group work, around 300,000 to use next year. That funding is allocated to some of the programs and work that we've been working on in this group with you, our iwi partners. The funding that may be impacted by Andre's comments, by the chair's comments around the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee, is around 100,000 that had been allocated to our iwi partners for capacity building, I think is the terms that they'd used, and that has not currently been allocated, and it would be that. There is no time frame set to that, is my understanding, but is that if anything would be at risk if we are not including our Wellington Regional Leadership Committee members in this group. That said, though, that funding is not committed through the steering group, so may still be sitting there outside of the forum that we're trying to stand up. And the reason I wanted to say this is that essentially much of the work we're doing with the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee has been to do with the future development strategy and also the complex development opportunity, which is around Ōtaki. We will continue with the complex development opportunity, if I'm honest, alongside, but irrelevant as to whether our partners from the Wellington Regional Leadership Committee were at this forum. So if that was a sticking point for this being signed off, we would ensure that we oiled the machine to ensure that those initiatives were not impacted. So I just wanted to put that on the table.
Kia ora, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the response.
Kia ora tātou. Just thank everyone for their comments to date, and Andre te whakamohio mai I ngā miki I ngā āhuatanga miki e e pānei i wanganui a koutou o Tiatiawa ki whakarongotai me te WRLC. Ngā Hapu Ōtaki is active with WRLC on a range of matters in a range of forums to advance the wishes of our people in terms of Ōtaki, within Ōtaki. And on a number of forums, I'm present with WRLC in a number of forums on a monthly, fortnightly basis. Housing is one of them, but it's not. WRLC just has opened the door for us to engage with Crown agencies. So that be it MHUD, be it TPK, be it Kāinga Ora, to advance the housing initiatives in Ōtaki. We need to ensure, and we approach this with the following discussions with Art Andre. You touched on a couple of issues just earlier, where we'd been together in discussions with Tiatiawa and Ngāti Toa, and Helmut was the person at the time who we initially went to help support us with housing. And that was our first port of call, 2020, 2021. Things have moved on from there, but I'm conscious now that I'm conscious of the concerns Tiatiawa have that are still unresolved. I'm not sure what they are, and I don't need to delve into it, but I'd be keen to help broker or discuss and bring the parties together, Andre, so that any advancement that Tiatiawa want to be making is not being delayed either for the people of Tiatiawa. And I have to say here with hand on heart that it's not my role to delay any further advancement of projects for Ngā Hapu Ōtaki, because our people have high needs. And our sole purpose in coming into this role was to stand up housing in Ōtaki for our people. And that is still our prime concern. The sooner we do that, the better. Any delays don't help us in that regard. And we're only there as an interim. So our intent was to get the foundation in place. Whakarite, kia whakarite te tuapapa ki te whakatūwhare mō te miki mō ngā whānau Ngā Hapu Ōtaki. That's our goal. Once we sign off, it's going to happen, and we've done what we were tasked to do, Andre. But in terms of WRLC, they have opened doors to us in other areas in terms of secondment of specialist help. We're short in some of those areas. We've got a funding matter on the table now, which we're trying to get signed off to help our housing team in Ōtaki, to stand up a housing team in Ōtaki. And we've got another one to meet before the 30th of June. Those have been facilitated through various departments, but primarily through WRLC, and for that we've been reasonably grateful. So I just want to thank everyone to say we're keen to pause. 6 months is too long for us to pause on anything, far too long. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's taken us 2.5 years to get to the terms of reference, and we're keen to progress. Certainly not at the detriment, though, Andre, of not being able to stand alongside our art whanaunga and support you in the things where we can help you in that area. So, tēnā koe, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe Denise, e whakamārama nau ngā wawata o Ngā Hapu Ōtaki o tira te hāpori Ōtaki. The matter concerning Wellington Regional Leadership Committee cannot and will not be resolved today because the matter is resting in their hands. But just to make it clear that we're not reliant on that relationship to engage with the Crown. We're not a Crown entity. So we can continue to be a party to this kaupapa without at all having to rely on our representation through that committee. And the membership of the steering group that clearly identifies mana whenua, our local authority, and Crown agencies, is by default the basis for our support for this kaupapa. It's not at all reliant on us having to have a relationship with the committee. So I just want to re-emphasise that because we absolutely support what we're trying to do here. There's another matter that I wanted to raise. I'll just go back a step, and it refers to, again, to 16.1, which is indicating having Art appoint a chair for the group to ensure the group remains on track. I suspect that also is reflective of the desire to provide an opportunity for mana whenua to be visible. But in the terms of reference, it indicates that an independent chair from one of the member organisations would be appointed on page 21. It might be that the terms of reference are a little bit more clearer regarding that in terms of how this is written in the actual report to Te Whakaminenga this morning. It doesn't necessarily suggest that that opportunity exists for that chair to be drawn from a decision made by Art. And my expectation, I should say Te Awa expectation, is that we would want to encourage the chair to be clearly identifiable from the three iwi. Given to the conversations, and I'm aware that Mayor and Kim perhaps would like to provide some further final comments and advice, I would then like us to look at recommendation A and how might we amend that to satisfy all parties here today, taking into account the constructive conversations that we've had. Janet, Mayor, Janet and Kim.
Sorry, I was just waiting to be muted. Yeah, no, I don't need to say anything. I was just going to suggest that potentially we could consider an amended option A. So I look forward to hearing what's suggested in that regard, and happy to help with some wording if required.
Kia ora, thank you. Kim?
Yes, I have the same similar comments to the Mayor, and that let's just find a way forward. I think Auntie Denise has gone over it a bit. I will probably just say and RLC about that funding and did a bit of context behind it was that basically when we came to this forum we said we're not going to enter into it until there is actually resourcing available, and that was our way of getting that resourcing so that we could attend. So we have been attending, and we were waiting for that resourcing to come through to cover the costs that we've had to date. So if we can get a reword that recommendation, that would be good. So let's get into that now.
Right, yeah, look, I think there's, we all concur that there would be some benefit in looking at the recommendation A, amending that to reflect a position that we could potentially land on today. I'd like to think that the meeting will, at the very minimum, receive the terms of reference. My sense is that there is some work to be done. But if the agreement is that we are comfortable to work on those finer points, that may not necessarily limit or prohibit further work to be undertaken as has already been scheduled. So I'd invite advice on how we might amend the recommendation A on page 12.
In terms of, I suppose, the recommendation, obviously noting the comments made today, obviously there could be a comment in terms of receiving the report and that there is approval of the report, but delegation for council to work with the members of ART to come up with a final terms of reference, to make changes to ensure that there's delegation to finalise the report. So I'm thinking that the committee approves the report, or approves the terms of reference generally. In principle, sorry, yes, that's the word I'm thinking of, yeah, in principle, but there's delegation for council to work with ART to fine tune the report so that it's finally signed off by the chair or ART as a whole.
Perhaps to refine. Fine tune sounds like a mechanical thing. Perhaps to refine those matters that have been identified at today's meeting. Eh?
Would you like us to bring the recommendations up on the screen so we can?
Yeah, I'm just going to nod to Steffi if we could have that generated. We could put that up on the screen so we've got visibility, and we'll put the motion. If we're all comfortable with the amended recommendation, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move.
Can I ask perhaps whether our Mayor or Councillor Halliday are comfortable to second the amended motion?
The Mayor has just raised her hand, so I'll just
Yeah, I'm happy to do so.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Contrary? I'm getting the thumbs up online. Thank you, Steph. Carried. Thank you. Perhaps I might suggest that in our updated Ngātake Tarewa that we consider a time frame. That might be something we can talk about on Friday. All right? If you just note that, Steph, we put a time frame on ourselves to further the conversation around some of the detail that will meet our expectations regarding the amendment of that recommendation. Thank you, Darren. And thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate your time on this. And thank you, Chris.
Kia ora. I just wanted to thank everyone for being willing to move that forward today. I know there's some things we do need to sort out, so look forward to the discussion on Friday. Tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe, Darren. The rest of the agenda should only take about 10 minutes. Thank you for joining us. We're on 6.2, page 23. Tēnā koe, Diana. Korua tahi ko Janice, responsible for this report to Te Whakaminenga in relation to the Māori Economic Development Fund.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa, ko hui mai I tēnei ata, ki a koe Andre. Te pau whirinaki o tēnei hui e mei ana ki a koe. So koutou, this is a report actually for the Māori Economic Development Fund, so I'm going to ask that we take this report as read and just ask if there are any questions before we ask you to consider the recommendations.
Can I ask that we move in second a motion to adopt this report? And happy to take any questions or advice regarding items A, B and C from the recommendations received today. And I'm happy to move. Moved by the Chair, seconded by Kirsten. Are there any comments, any questions regarding the recommendations A, B and C? Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, look, this was a great process. I was involved in it. Very happy with the outcome. I just had a question with regards to the releasing of the funds and what is the process for that? Does that come through this particular meeting as well? Does that need to be confirmed? Deanna, you could perhaps give us some guidance on that, would be much appreciated.
Tēnā koe, Martin. So further on in the agenda, we are going to give an update, and we will be submitting a formal report to next month's meeting, which will give the details of the recipients. So the panel has the full ability to make the recommendations and to determine the recipients for the fund, and we're to report on behalf of the panel back to Te Whakaminenga, and we'll do so via formal report at next month's hui. Tēnā koe.
Lovely. Thank you for that clarity. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy to move.
Thank you, Deanna, for this report. It's been moved by the Chair and seconded by Kirsten that we adopt the recommendations A, B and C. Thanks staff for their work on this. All in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried.
Did you want to take a quick break or you want to continue?
Are we comfortable to continue? We want to take a break? Me haere tatou? Oh, I can see there's a request for a coffee break. All right, we'll have a 5-minute break. For Yeah, for our addicted coffee drinkers.